Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Dom Farnan, who's the founder and CEO of DotConnect. Dom, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so give us a little bit of your background and your entrepreneurial journey up to this point in your career, and then I want to learn about what kind of dots that you help to connect.
Awesome. Yeah, so I have an interesting background. I've only ever recruited. I actually started recruiting when I was 17. I graduated high school early, wanted to ditch the pizza shop and get a quote-unquote real job, which ended up being how to learn recruiting. And from there, it's kind of all I've ever done for the last 20 years before I really started building out my team at the beginning of 2019.
So did you get trained by a company, maybe a family friend that got you into recruiting, and then at some point you thought, hey, I know the ropes and I can now launch out on my own?
Yeah, exactly. So my first gig was in corporate. So I worked for a building products company, and I had a really amazing very senior level team that mentored and coached me and taught me a lot of what I knew. I followed that boss that hired me there to probably 5 other companies. And after my third stint with corporate, I decided to go the consulting route, worked for a vendor of ours, then had another amazing boss named Iris, who was a mentor of mine, and fell in love with working with a lot of different companies. So collectively, I probably worked for about 400 different companies throughout my consulting career before I decided that at the end of 2018, I was a bit burnt out and I wanted to leverage my skills and abilities and teach people how to recruit. So initially, my first team of people was a handful of, friends and family and people I could pull in to show the ropes before we've scaled out our company globally. So now we're about 100 people that sit remote first all over the U.S. and Africa and South Africa.
When you were describing that, it reminds me of a seminar that I went to years ago, and this is a great tip for anybody listening to this, whether you want to start a business down the road or not. But the seminar was called The Brand of You. And it was in financial services, and they were talking about, hey, you might work for XYZ company that does financial services, but really you should be building the brand of you. What are you about? Yep. What is your mission? What is your vision? How do you serve your clients? And build relationships, build your network, your strategic alliances, because no matter where you hang your shingle, so to speak, you then just bring everyone with you, and you work for this company or that company, and then you decide to start your own, doing whatever industry. You're building your own brand and your own network, and that's huge. That's an asset that if anyone could build that from day one, will serve you. And guess what? You can be intrapreneurial, working for a company and never start your own, but still have that same mindset and succeed wildly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of what I tell my team is focus on the work and do good work, and you'll always have work. And, everyone who is in your network that you've built meaningful relationships with will think of you, refer you, pull you into wherever they are. That's how we get a lot of the client work that we have now, and the engagements that we're in with now is through referrals both based on candidates that we've hired at other places or former hiring managers or former bosses that we've had. It's all about the relationships.
Yep. So then when you're building relationships, what is, like a lot of people go, oh, hey, you sell life insurance. Well, not really. I sell peace of mind. Life insurance is the vehicle. Well, what are some of your mission and focus within the recruiting industry, rather than just I recruit or I help someone get a job or I teach someone how to get a job? What are some of the broader 30,000-foot view, like values you follow?
Yeah, so we just reshaped our values to reflect where we're at and where I'm at on my leadership journey. I like to consider myself an aspiring conscious leader. And so really what that means is, conscious leaders have choices that they have to make every day, and choosing how they show up for themselves first their teams and their families. But our values are mindful of yourself and others, and really having awareness of how you're contributing to the greater good, willingness to help. We're also growth mindset oriented, ownership and delivery. My team's very driven, and we like to have fun. So in the scheme of life, we know that, while what we do is serious and important, at the same time, we don't take ourselves too seriously. We're not saving lives. We're helping people get jobs and that kind of thing. But for us, the relationship piece is very important. And I think we stay grounded in that and really just treating people with a lot of respect and taking a genuine interest in who they are as a human being. So, if we're not hiring them for one client engagement that we're on, we're still going to maintain that relationship over time to see how we can help them. Ultimately, our goal is to help the people and the clients in which we serve.
Yeah, you mentioned conscious leadership, and I think that, you hear, like servant leadership and conscious capitalism, right? Yeah. Like I teach marketing, and conscious capitalism is something because you got to make a profit. You don't want to gouge people, but if you don't make a profit, then you're not going to be around to serve your community, to pay the salaries of your employees. So you have to make a profit, but do it with ethical, conscious approach. So define and talk a little bit about conscious leadership. What is your approach that way?
Yeah, I think in this day and age of the me culture, we at Dot are really trying to change the paradigm back to a we culture. So I aspire to lead by example and really hold myself accountable, speaking with integrity and coming to work as my whole authentic self. And really that creates a safe space for my team to do the same. When we work with our clients, we really are listening, processing, understanding, infiltrating, and then looking for win-for-all solutions for them, even if it's not necessarily what they want to hear. Like our outcome is to help them despite things being challenges, constraints, or obstacles. And we really become a part of our clients' inner circles and are embedded within their companies. We also like to think through and ideate and think about like what if. So we experiment a lot with how we go and find talent. It's not just LinkedIn all day, every day. Granted, LinkedIn's great, but there are a lot of different ways to tap into talent networks. And really, I think where our magic comes into play is by understanding how to read in between the lines so that we can execute on a really high level for our partners. And ultimately, I think if you know me and you know my team, you'll feel like we really do love what we do. And so, our success is also our client success, and same with our candidates. So that will resonate through anyone that you talk to on my team.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I don't know. You see a lot of this in industry or even movies. It's like, hey, here's this leader that's rolling up their sleeves, literally getting down on their hands and knees, doing this work, whatever the work might be. And their team is like, I'm right behind you because you're not just in the ivory tower, barking out orders. So that's huge to be able to lead by example, whether it's, your actions or attitudes or, just your strategy. So I think that conscious leadership is so huge, and hopefully it starts catching on more than it is, because I have a feeling that, one of my daughters actually just is taking graduate school courses, and one of the classes was in leadership, and her actual direct boss was the teacher, and they were talking about in the class how, leadership should do this and that. And she was saying in one of the papers, boy, it would be wonderful to see our organization do these things, meaning, yeah, that sounds good on paper and in a textbook, but it's not happening in real life. And you might say it out of one side of your mouth, but do it.
Yeah, no, totally. Last year, we were targeting to work with venture-backed startups and specific mission-driven and values-based organizations. And there were a handful that we landed as clients, but the minute that we got in there, it was a very different experience. So they portrayed mission-driven and values-based, and then internally it was toxic and a lot of projection and drama and just things that we don't tolerate. So we churned some clients, and I'll be the first one to stand up and push back to these clients and say, yeah, we're not going to put up with that. And that's not the way I run my organization. And I'm never going to put my team in a situation where everything's amazing at Dot, and then they get inside a client and it's a different story and they're coming to us
Yeah.
crying or, not safe or anything like that.
Because that's actually a reflection on your brand when you are placing an employee into an organization like that, then that employee goes, wow, thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Or not thanks.
Yeah, exactly. I think right now we're ripe for a new shift in conscious leadership. It's still very new. And I know for myself, we have 100 people who are on the team, and turning this ship, even though it's smaller compared to a lot of our clients, and getting people tapped into their own awakening and journey of inner work and healing and all the things that it takes to be conscious, and have practices that'll help and support you in that, has been challenging. I'm noticing it myself. I go and do spiritual retreats and I bring things back to my team, and I find that maybe 50-60% of people are into it and the rest are not. So yeah. I know that my mission in life and vision one day will be to have 100% of my team backing this conscious commitment and way of being, that will then create a bigger impact in the world and the clients that we're serving.
Awesome. Hey, let's roll into this thing that's going around these days, which is the Great Resignation. And we talked a little bit about the brand of you and networking and staying in touch with people. Well, do you feel like this Great Resignation is happening where people are feeling like, I can resign and go and start my own thing, or go to another company, or take a break for a while, and I know that I'm marketable? What is the mindset there with people that are participating in this? And do you feel like they are just so confident in their skills that they go, I can do what I want when I want?
Yeah, I think I've seen all of the above as far as buckets people. I've seen full burnout people. I've seen people who want to take a pause and have the means to do that. I've seen people who completely change careers. We had a magic show a couple weeks ago with a former recruiter turned magician who's just like crushing it with his magic literally now. And he exited from being a recruiter probably, a couple years ago. So it wasn't that long ago. And I definitely think people are looking at their skills and considering that they can be transferable. I'm seeing a lot of teachers come up. Teachers are no longer wanting to be in this system and be educators, but you can repurpose those skills for several different things, for corporate learning and development and adult education, continuing education. And there's a huge influx of opportunity for people creating their own, training programs. We, for example, have DotConnect, which is our 12-week recruiter accelerator and boot camp. We have one for our technical recruiters, and we're building out one for business recruiting and high volume recruiting as well. Right now, we've offered it to our team internally, but ultimately we're going to open it up to the market and put it out there so that anyone can sign up, get education on how to be a recruiter, and then be able to do that, anywhere in the world, working from home and making a living wage.
That's a really big point you bring up with education. And that's just one example, because you don't need to feel like you need to work for an educational system. You could go corporate, and you could even go corporate and have the side hustle these days, which is easier than ever. It used to be like, oh, I need to have 2 full-time jobs, or I need to have a part-time moonlighting. But these days, it's like having that side hustle and creating a piece of educational training content that you can sell on your own, maybe totally different than what you're teaching in the corporate world or in the classroom. Maybe it's your passion. And now all of a sudden you're, pouring yourself into that, and it does not feel like work, and you're making $1 or $2, and then it grows a little bit. And then maybe that allows you to make the move into something different. But I think that maybe the paradigm shift of, wow, I used to punch the clock, so to speak, or get my paycheck. Maybe people are realizing that creativity and flexibility is something that can be attained.
Absolutely. I mean, I look at my friend Kat, she goes by Miss Excel on TikTok and Instagram, and she started selling Excel training courses, but she made it fun and silly and paired it with music and all of these things. And she went viral, I think, early COVID days. And now that's her only source of income, and she's growing her company around it. But before, she was in consulting, and just was obsessed with Excel and loved it and felt like, hey, if I'm success. There's other people who probably nerd out on it like me or want to know how to be more effective leveraging the tools that we have in corporate. That's just one example. I have another friend, Adam Roa, who built out a whole community called the Create Community around his passion for creativity and inspiring people. And that's a subscription-based membership that you can join and, kickstart creative projects, whatever they may be.
So if someone were to come to you and say, Dom, you are a force to be reckoned with, you've got a lot of knowledge, not only in recruiting, but in life, business, what would you say would be one of your things you could mentor someone on, take someone under your wing and kind of guide them along with some of the life lessons that you've learned?
Yeah, I would say where I'm at and what is really coming up as exciting for me is I've been running my company and building it since 2019. But before that, I was a solopreneur as a recruiter. So I'm still passionate about leveling up and mentoring and coaching junior recruiters and watching them flourish in their own careers. But secondly, I have an interest in helping earlier stage entrepreneurs, females in particular, and helping them to stay inspired and motivated and get grounded in how they can tap into their own power and grow their companies, taking the lessons I've learned and making sure it doesn't have to be as hard as I may have made it for myself the first few years. If I look back to early days of DotConnect in 2019, 2020, I was a very different person than I am now as far as my leadership. I would consider myself a toxic corporate boss, micromanaging, perfectionistic. I had a lot of saboteurs that were working against me and not for me. And since then, I've tapped into, my own spiritual awakening, my inner healing work, my consciousness masterminds that I'm a part of, and just different modalities that have helped me, like breath work and plant medicine and other things that I can leverage to heal myself, which has then in turn created a bigger opportunity for my company. Like my company's grown, and I've been going through this whole journey of my own healing and transformation and shedding of old things. And so I definitely have a passion for helping women who might be earlier stage than where we're at that might need that little extra support.
Awesome. Well, that's so neat when you can just do way more than just the thing that you're known for doing, when you can bring in all of those other elements and make your work fun, fulfilling, and make it to where it's more than just about you or even your company. You're making a ripple effect, and you think about the old story about the butterfly effect, but you throw that pebble in the pond and you see ripples for, down the road. Well, that's a huge legacy that you can be building, not just in profits and only the money at the bottom line. So love that. Love your crusade that you're on. What's the best way, Dom, that someone hearing this can go, I would like to learn more, whether it's recruiting or Dom's journey and where she can maybe help me out? What's the best way they can reach out, connect with you?
Yeah, sure. So for me personally, I'm on Instagram at I am Dom Farnan. I also have a website, domfarnan.com. You can find my team at DotConnectLLC.com or we are DotConnect on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, Dom, thank you so much for coming on today. It was a real pleasure talking with you.
Thanks, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.